This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
So today's class is on placenta, its development and its abnormalities, also placental functions. The human placenta is discoid, is called as discoid, hemochorial and decidual. Discoid because of its shape, hemochorial because the chorionic villi are bathed in the maternal blood sinuses, and deciduate because it is not permanent structure because we will lose the placenta after the delivery of the baby. The fetus is completely dependent on placenta for its circulation. In overview, the maternal blood usually spurts into the from the uteroplacental vessels into the intervillous spaces and bathes the chorionic villi. Placenta is actually developed from two sources, that is fetal and maternal. Fetal is from chorion frondosum and maternal is from Decidua basalis. The definitive development of placenta usually starts at 6 weeks and completes by 12 weeks of gestation. This chorionic villi are first formed all over the trophoblast into the surrounding decidua, that is completely surrounding the embryo. The villi which is related to decidua capsularis, that is towards the uterine cavity, will degenerate and form chorionic levae. The villi which grow into the decidua basalis, that is towards the implantation site, will develop into chorionic frondosum, which is the fetal component which in future develops into the placenta. This chorionic frondosum, along with Decidua basalis of mother, form the placenta. You can see here. First, the chorionic villi are formed all over the surface. Later, the chorionic villi, which are close to the uterine cavity, will proliferate and grow to form chorion frondosum. And the remaining chorionic villi, which are surrounding the uterine cavity. This is the uterine cavity. Here, the embryo will be there. So implantation side, the chorionic villi will proliferate and will grow, will have an exuberant growth and form chorion frondosum to form future placenta. And the remaining chorionic villi which are present towards the uterine cavity or abembryonic space, abembryonic area, they usually degenerate to form chorionic levae. So you can see here clearly, this is the chorionic frondosum. Here it is getting degenerated and forming chorionic levae. And this is the decidual plate, and both the decidual plate and the chorionic frondosum of fetus form the placenta. How are these chorionic villi formed? Actually, when the blastocyst gets implanted, the outer layer of the blastocyst is called as trophoblast cells, which divide and form two separate layers. One, the superficial layer, which constitutes a continuous sheet of cytoplasm with multiple nuclei because the cells lose their cell walls, and it forms a syncytiotrophoblast. Syncytio means only one cytoplasm with multiple nuclei and no cell membranes. And the second layer, the deeper layer of the cells, it's a single layer of cells which retain their cell walls, and it constitutes the cytotrophoblast. Don't confuse between syncytiotrophoblast and cytotrophoblast. Cytotrophoblast is also called as embryonic mesoderm. See, you can see this syncytium without any cell walls. And this layer is the cytotrophoblast. I'll show it in another picture. And how are this chorionic villi are actually formed in stages like primary, secondary, and tertiary villi. This primary villi actually have a central core of cytotrophoblast with a covering layer of syncytotrophoblast. Here. So this is the structure of the primary villus. This yellow one is the syncytotrophoblast. And this blue layer is the cytotrophoblast. This cytotrophoblastic cells in the center with the surrounding syncytotrophoblast form the primary villus. The secondary villi will have three layers: outer syncytotrophoblast, middle cyto, and inner extra embryonic mesoderm. Don't get confused. Cytotrophoblast is also called as embryonic mesoderm, and which is with inside extra embryonic mesoderm, the secondary villus forms. Here you can see this yellow one is syncytiotropoblast. This blue cell layer is cytotrophoblast, and this violet color or purple color thing is the extraembryonic mesoderm. Now this forms the secondary villi. And the tertiary villi, the secondary villi with the blood capillaries, that the umbilical vessels which come from the umbilical cord, along with the secondary villi forms the tertiary villi. Here you can see secondary villi with the blood vessels. This is the formation, this is the structure of the tertiary villi. So primary villi will form at day 3, this by days 12 and this by day 21. In the tertiary villi, some parts on cross section, some parts of the tertiary villi will have a thick areas called as beta zones. These areas are primarily synthesis areas because they synthesize more of hormones. The other thin areas, which are called as alpha zones, which mainly function because of this exchange of or transfer of materials. It is called as vasculosyncytial membrane. I'll show it in the picture. After the formation of the terminal villi, the cytotrophoblast emerges through the syncytium of each villi and completely cuts off. Here you can see. After the formation, this is the tertiary villi, and finally it is the syncytiotrophoblast. It's the yellow one is getting cut off from the maternal part. If you can see here, this dotted one is the maternal part. That is the final stage. Usually the villi which are formed attached on the fetal side to the extraembryonic mesoderm and on the maternal side to the cytotrophoblast. If you can see here, this purple one is the extraembryonic mesoderm and the single layer is the cytotrophoblast. So it is attached to the extraembryonic mesoderm towards the fetal side and towards the maternal side to the cytotrophoblast. And this villi is called as anchoring villi. And this villi is called as anchoring villi. From the anchoring villi, it usually branches to form truncus cori, rami cori, and further into ramuli cori, which increases surface area for exchange between maternal and fetal circulation. This is the cross section of the primary villi, secondary villi, and a tertiary villi. Primary villi usually is having the central core of cytotrophoblast with surrounding syncytiotropoblast. Secondary villi, further the extraembryonic mesoderm, cytotrophoblast, and the syncytiotropoblast. And in tertiary villi, fetal vessels with the cytotrophoblast and the syncytiotropoblast. This is the structure of the tertiary villi and cross section. How are these villi arranged? I already said this is that anchoring villi, truncus cori, which branches into ramus and further into ramuli cori. So one such anchoring villi, so this part, this anchoring villi part constitutes the fetal cotyledon. Don't confuse from a maternal side cotyledon. It is a fetal cotyledon or placentome. See from here, this is the fetal side. This anchoring cori, each anchoring cori is called as fetal cotyledon. And this is the maternal side. This maternal side of placenta is usually divided into lobes through an incomplete septa. You can see the septa is not complete. They are incomplete septa which grow into the, this is called as intervillous space, which actually grow into the intervillous space. So this part is called as lobes from the maternal side. This part is called as fetal lobule or placentome. Don't get confused. So each maternal lobe may have more than one anchoring villi, which you can see in this picture. See here, 2 anchoring villi are there, and here 2 anchoring villi are there. Therefore, a fully formed placenta will have 60 to 100 fetal cotyledons, not placental lobes. And one maternal cotyledon will have 3 to 5 fetal cotyledons. So that is the fetal part of placenta, which is formed by chorion frondosome. Now the maternal part of the placenta is actually called as decidua or decidua basalis. Decidua is the modified endometrium of the pregnancy. Normally, if the woman is not pregnant, we'll call as endometrium. If she is pregnant, the endometrium is a specialized one. It's a modified one, and we call it as decidua. This decidualization is actually hormonal dependent and it's dependent on estrogen, progesterone, androgens and factors secreted by blastocyst. See, this decidua is also having different parts. It consists of 3 parts: decidua basalis, decidua capsularis and decidua parietalis. If you can see, this is decidua basalis, which is actually getting implanted. And the other surface which is actually facing the uterine cavity is decidua parietalis. Sorry. This is decidua parietalis, capsularis, sorry. And the decidua which is surrounding the other uterine cavity which is not getting implanted is called as parietalis. Finally, this capsularis and parietalis will get fused to form decidua vera. Decidua vera by 14 to 16 weeks of gestation, due to gestational sac getting expanded and enlarged and completely fills the uterine cavity. Therefore, the decidua capsularis and parietalis usually gets opposed and form the decidua vera. This is decidua capsularis and this is decidua parietalis. With the increasing in size in the gestational sac, or the cavity gets obliterated and these two get opposed to each other and form the decidua vera. So finally, the decidua basalis, which we have already said that it contributes to the placenta, maternal part of the placenta. The decidua basalis usually invaded by many interstitial trophoblast and trophoblastic giant cells. Nitabux layer is a zone of fibrinode degeneration in which the invading trophoblast meets the decidua basalis. Where the fetal trophoblast meets the decidua, there forms a Nitabux layer. And decidual necrosis is a normal phenomenon in the first and probably second trimester. The structure of placenta. Placenta is usually a discoid. You can see here it's a discoid with 2 surfaces. This is fetal surface and this is maternal surface. At term, it actually weighs half kg with a diameter of 15 to 20 centimeters and thickness of 2.5 centimeters and volume of 500 ml. At term, usually the weight of the placenta is only 1/6 of the fetus. It has maternal and fetal surface, I already showed. Its origin is from fetal and maternal, 4/5 from the fetal, that is the chorion frondosum, and 1/5 from the maternal, that is the decidua basalis and the blood in the intervallus space. If you can see the fetal surface, you can see it is smooth, glistening with these umbilical vessels, ramifications of these umbilical vessels. You see this maternal surface, it is rough and raggy with cotyledons. You can see this cotyledons. Placenta is attached to uterine wall, as we have already mentioned, through the anchoring villi, and placental separation at birth usually occurs through deciduous spongiosum, which is an intermediate layer of the decidua basalis. Coming to placental circulation. Placental circulation usually constitutes of uteroplacental circulation and fetoplacental circulation. How is the fetal circulation takes place? From the embryo to the placenta, the deoxygenated blood passes through 2 umbilical arteries. You have to remember this umbilical arteries. They are 2 in number and deoxygenated blood is going through this umbilical arteries. These umbilical vessels usually branch and runs along the chorionic plate, as we have already saw in this picture here. These are the umbilical vessels. These are the umbilical vessels. If you can see umbilical vessels to the chorionic plate, umbilical vein and umbilical arteries. The deoxygenated blood is carried through 2 umbilical arteries. And they form capillaries. I'll show it the capillaries also. See here. These are the capillaries. This is the chorionic plate, umbilical vessels. They form capillaries in the villi. So deoxygenated blood is carried through 2 umbilical arteries and oxygenated blood is carried through 1 umbilical vein. These umbilical arteries and these umbilical veins, which form capillaries in the villi. And the diffusion usually occurs in the intervillar space, where this intervillar space is actually filled with maternal blood through the spiral arteries. These are maternal blood vessels. This is the intervillar space, which is pooled up with the maternal blood. Maternal circulation usually from the spiral arteries, which enter the intervillar space, I have already mentioned. And exchange of nutrients occurs through the villus. This is the structure of the villi. Within the villi, there is fetal vessels, and outside the villi, in the intervillar space, is the maternal blood. Therefore, exchange of gases. These arrows you can see, exchange of gases takes place through the intervillar space into the villi. And the maternal blood usually drains off into the uterine veins present in the basal plate. Basal plate is this one. So uterine veins will take up the deoxygenated blood. This is another picture. You can see diffusion of gases takes place like this. These are capillaries in the villus. This is intervillar space, which is poured up with the maternal blood from the spiral arteries. So before going into the spiral artery invasion, we have to know the different layers or different cells of the embryo. First, the morula changes into blastocyst by day 6 to 7, and blastocyst, the inner cell membrane, inner cell mass converts into embryoblast, and the outer cells into trophoblast. This trophoblast, we have already said, a deeper layer of cytotrophoblast and the superficial layer of syncytial trophoblast. And this syncytial trophoblast will actually form this villus syncytial trophoblast, and cytotrophoblast will form this villus cytotrophoblast and extravillus. This extravillus also have an interstitial part and endovascular part. So villus trophoblast usually forms the chorionic villi. Extravillus will migrate into the decidua. Decidua is the maternal space and myometrium and penetrate the maternal vasculature. So villus trophoblast will form chorionic villi, and extravillus will migrate and penetrate the maternal vessels. And extravillus is again of two types, endovascular and interstitial. Endovascular, they invade the spiral arteries of the mother, the spiral arteries, and they form this spiral, and they convert the spiral arteries into a low resistance blood flow. And interstitial trophoblast, they usually invade the decidua and surrounding spiral arteries. Here, these are interstitial, these are endovascular trophoblast, and this is the villus trophoblast. If you can see, all these are parts of cytotrophoblast. For spiral artery, converting the spiral arteries into low resistance flow, endovascular and interstitial trophoblast actually helps out. So spiral artery invasion. Spiral artery modifications are carried out by endovascular and interstitial trophoblast, as we have already said. You can see here endovascular and interstitial trophoblast. The interstitial trophoblast constitute a major portion for the placental blood. They forms apoptosis of the vascular endothelium. After attaching to the endothelium, they cause apoptosis, and they invade the vascular media and replace the smooth muscle by fibrinoid. Therefore, it converts the high resistance flow into a low resistance and high capacitance flow. Spiral arteries later regenerate endothelium. Finally, after making this into a high capacity and low resistance flow, they regenerate the endothelium, and invading endovascular trophoblast can extend several centimeters into the vessel lumen and thus migrate against the arterial flow. This invasion usually involves only the decidual spiral arteries and not the veins. Therefore, this uteroplacental circulation, the spiral artery invasion occurs in two waves. First wave is at 12 weeks post-fertilization, where modification of spiral arteries begin between decidua and myometrium. Second wave usually at 16 weeks, where intramyometrial segments of spiral arteries are invaded. Therefore, the narrow lumen muscular spiral arteries will become dilated, high capacitance and low resistance flow. If this invasion or the second wave, if it doesn't happen, then patient will get preeclampsia, and thereby fetus will get infected with growth restriction. This placenta membrane, usually the maternal and fetal blood are not mixed. They are in a separate channels. Therefore, this placental membrane actually it's formed by endothelium of fetal blood vessels and the basement membrane of the fetal blood vessels, the surrounding mesoderm and cytotrophoblast and basement membrane and syncytiotrophoblast, which actually separates the fetal and maternal blood without getting mixed. So these are the age of the days and the developmental events. Day 8, trophoblast into cyto and syncytio. Day 9, lacunae appear in the syncytium. Day 11, embryo gets implanted. Day 13, primary villi, 16, secondary villi, and 21, tertiary villi. And full-term placenta and definitive 3 to 4 months, definitive placenta is formed and placenta shed after the birth of the baby. What is intervillous space? This is called as intervillous space. The space between chorionic plate and basal plate and lateral borders are villi. Roof is formed by chorionic plate, base by maternal decidual or decidual plate, and lateral sides by villi. This area is the intervillous space, which is actually poured by maternal blood through the spiral arteries. You can see this red one. So placental growth and maturation. By 17 weeks of gestation, placenta and fetal weights are usually equal. By term, the placental weight is only 1/6 of the fetal weight. We've already known that. Each placenta will have a maternal surface with the convex areas. We've already seen the lobes, which are 15 to 20 lobes. These lobes are incompletely separated by grooves. I have already shown you in the figure, incomplete septa. So what are the changes in the villus stroma? The villus stroma usually lose intercellular connective tissue and becomes denser, and the cells are more spindle and closely packed. Infiltration of Hofbauer cells. Hofbauer cells are the fetal macrophages which actually help from the for defense mechanism of the fetus. At term, villi may be focally reduced to thin layer of syncytium covering minimal villus connective tissue. See, this is the aging process. If you can see at the time of formation, there is more syncytiotrophoblasts. This is a green one. As placenta grows, the syncytiotrophoblasts becomes thinner. The fetal vessels become enlarged. And the areas of syncytiotrophoblasts, the thick areas, I've already said they are synthesis areas for formation of hormones. And the thin areas are usually for transfer. Therefore, fetal capillaries are in close relation to this thin syncytiotrophoblast. What are Hofbauer cells? These are actually round cells with eccentric nuclei and granular and vacuolated cytoplastic cells. These are macrophagic cells and phagocytic. They have immunosuppressive phenotype and can produce various cytokines and capable of paracrine regulation of trophoblastic function. What are the functions of placenta? Placenta, the main function of placenta is respiratory, excretory, immunological, endocrine, and so on. The transport of oxygen, water, electrolytes, nutrients like amino acids, lipids, carbohydrates, everything are from maternal blood through the maternal sinuses, intervillous space to the villus by various forms of diffusion. Excretion, the same way excretion of carbon dioxide, urea, and waste products also happen in the same way through the maternal blood. And maternal antibodies, IgG, only IgG will reach the fetus through the placenta, which gives immunity. Sorry. And placenta acts as barrier, which prevent from the bacterial infections also. And some drugs cause through placenta and cause the congenital malformations. The bloodstreams of mother and fetus are separate. I've already mentioned because of the placental membrane, which is separating the fetal blood from the maternal blood, which prevents the antigenic reaction because fetus is a foreign body to the mother. Therefore, fetus will have both parent antigens, which are actually foreign to the mother. It will prevent the antigenic reaction due to placental barrier. And it is also having a function of hormonal synthesis like progesterone, estrogen, HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin, HPL, human placental lactogen, etc. Grossly, these are the functions where oxygen and nutrients are carried from maternal blood to the fetus. and waste products and other substances like RBC antigen hormones are given to the maternal circulation. These are the various structural abnormalities of the placenta. Actually, umbilical cord gets attached moreover in the center portion of the placenta. That is the normal insertion of the umbilical cord. If the umbilical cord is inserted to the membranes, not the placental bed, to the membranes. These are amnion and chorionic membranes. If the umbilical cord is attached to the membranes, it is called as filamentous insertion. If the placenta is having two lobes, two separate lobes, it is called as bilobed. If it is having an accessory lobe, it is called as succensurate lobe. This is the normal placenta. And placenta membranicus is the placenta is usually will have a large surface area with very thin membranous placenta due to persistence of chorionic levae. We've already said in the starting slide, chorionic levae, it usually gets regenerated, but in membranous placenta, usually it stays and it forms the thinner part of the placenta, which is called as membranous placenta. These two are circumvallate placenta. This this is circumvallate placenta, where you can see this fetal side is smaller than the maternal side with a double folding of amnion and chorion at the margin. This is marginate placenta. And abnormal invasion of placenta are, this is a normal placental implantation. If the placental substance, if you can see, if it is invading into the endometrium of the maternal uterus, it is called as accreta. If it is invading the myometrium also, it is called as increta. If it is invading the myometrium and it is piercing the serosa of the uterine cavity, and also it is called as percreta. So these are the various types of abnormal invasion of the placenta, where it is called as adherent placenta or placenta accreta syndrome. So that's all. Any doubts?